Well, now we've got the hatch complete on our Banshee, we're actually going to remove it, because now is a really good time to install the electronics. We've got access through the cockpit area to our control wires, and obviously it's all still nice and open, especially on the biplane. We don't have a top wing getting in the way of things. So let's have a look. Let's put this to one side for now and have a look at the electronics that we can actually use in the Banshee. So there are essentially two types of electronics. You can use the brushless all-in-one system, which has the onboard speed controller. It has two onboard servos, obviously the connection to the battery, and it's all you need to control the tail feathers and hook up your aileron servo. You can have it in both the SR3X stabilization, and you can have it without as well. So there's two choices of the choices that we have. So 4 choices in total. The stabilization is a great add-on for these aircraft, though. It means that you can fly them outdoors in all sorts of conditions. I've flown both the biplane and the air race in conditions that you would not think you'd be able to fly a micro in. So these do work very well. So you've got the all-in-one, and you've got the brushless receiver that doesn't have the onboard servos, but it does have the onboard speed controller for the brushless motor, and also in the pack you get 2 additional servos that you can use in the aircraft itself. So to control the tail feathers is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so we're going to install this into our air race, but we're going to put the all-in-one into the Banshee bipe. So we'll do the bipe first, so you can see what that looks like. But the bipe can also use this pack as well. You don't have to have one isn't for one type of aircraft and the other for the other. They are completely interchangeable. So let's grab that first. Now, being SR3X, the stabilization system has to be set up before you fly the aircraft, and you need to plug the board, the receiver, into your computer using one of these devices. This is a PGO2 tool. Now, you may well have purchased one with the kit itself, but if you haven't got one, we do them on our website separately, so you can go grab one of those. And this allows you to plug the receiver into your computer, and we can set up some stabilization. We'll assume for now that this is either all set up or that we are going to set it up once it's installed. So let's just grab the pack. So in here you've got your attachment pads. They're called servo pads, but they work really great for these small receivers. This is a Spectrum brushless receiver in here, which we'll get out in a second, and also you have your instructions. So that tells you how to bind and also how to set up your or get the crossover app that you need on your computer to actually change the settings on the receiver. So I'll pop that all away for now. But that's the connector that goes into the receiver. On this particular board, it goes into one of the aileron ports, the one furthest or the one at the edge of the board, basically. So that's how you do it there. But that'll also be in the electronics setup video. So let's just open this up, see what we've got. So I won't go through this in any detail because that'll be in the other video, but we've got an antenna, there, a little red thing, which I'll just pull free from the board. And we've obviously got our battery connector as well. This 3-pin connector here, just there, that's for the motor itself. So now the first thing to do with these receivers is obviously get your battery, plug it in, bind it to your transmitter, and make sure that it is all functioning properly. The servos are moving, and obviously we'll be able to test the output from the electronic speed controller once we plug it into our motor. This is something you don't have to wait until now to do. It can be done right at the beginning of the build, so that if there are any problems, then we can sort it out before you get to the point where you have to install this particular part. So right, well, let's get our aircraft, and essentially the receiver is going to go and sit. My love of dry fitting. Going to sit there, so let's just get some tweezers. In fact, I could probably use, nope, I can't use my fingers. Obviously think they are, I think they're slimmer than they are. They're not, they're fat and sausage like. So this is where we're going to get the receiver to sit. You can see just there. So we'll bring it a little bit further back. At the moment, the motor connector is underneath it, stopping it. But sorry, when I say further back, further forward, so that the plugs for the aileron are a little bit further out of or in this area here. Reason being is that if we want to make any adjustments to the stabilization system or anything on the receiver, in fact, we've still got access to the plug that we plug our PGO2 tool into, which is that one just there. So obviously we're not hooking up these during the install. We'll do that once this has been installed, and also obviously we want to plug in the aileron connector, which is in here somewhere, and this is a good reason why we're doing this with the cockpit glass still, or the canopy glass still off, so I can access this area easily. So there we've got our plug for the aileron servo. So on this board, the aileron servo we're going to plug into this first one, leaving this rear one free for plugging in our PGO2 tool interface tool if we actually need it. But the other thing we're going to do is we're going to pop a little pad on the back there, so that once we've got it in position, it will stick and stay. So there are two provided in the pack. You only actually need one, so you've got one spare, which you can pop somewhere safe. And then we're going to fit this over the back. Now, I'm going to actually fit it so that it's sitting over this area here and doesn't encroach on this area here. There are a couple of reasons why. Firstly, you'll be able to see that the servo main gears poke through the PCB a little bit. And what I don't want to do is put anything sticky in that way to interfere with them. So I'm going to keep this back from the little cutouts that they have in the PCB to allow them to turn. And also, this is the area where the ESC operates, and that can get quite warm. So having a foam pad over the electronic speed controller chip is never really a good idea. So if we have had on occasion, very rarely I must say, reports of the ESC burning out when people have been doing static tests to see how long their battery will last. So they've just been putting it on full throttle while the aircraft's been static, and also they've had the pad over this area, and that's caused the ESC to eventually overheat and burn out. So we don't want to do that. Poor little thing's got quite a job to do. So let's just peel off one of the sides. It doesn't really matter which, but and then we will pop the sticky stuff. There we go. So I'm not interfering with those cogs. I've got a little bit on the overhang there, but that's fine. So good. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to plug my motor in. So what we will have checked, or what I would want you to check before you do that, is that we've got it the right way round. So if you have connected all of this up and you plug your motor in, obviously we want the motor to be turning as we face it, anti-clockwise, but with regards to how it's working on the aircraft, it's essentially clockwise. So we need it to be spinning in that direction. If you can't see which way it's spinning when you spin up, just put a little bit of tape on the prop shaft, and you'll be able to see what way it's spinning. So, and then what you can do is you can put a little dot of white or white paint or something like that on the correct side. So you only need to do it on one of them. So so say on the motor connector, you can put a little dot on there, and you know that's the one that should be facing upwards when you come to connect it to your receiver. So let's just connect those up. Now the motor has some wire on it, so I can drag that out somewhat, and then connect that to the receiver itself. And then actually what I'm going to do before I go for the connection, I'm going to actually remove the control rods for now, which will make it easier for actually popping the receiver down onto the surface of the aircraft. So I'm just going to pop that upside down. Unhook these. We can just drag those out of the fuselage. There we go. And I'll just retract the aileron hook up as well. And actually the other thing that I could do, which may well be helpful, is actually thread this underneath the and into the underside of our motor mount and pull it up through that first hole. Easier said than done, John. So, and then that just keeps it nice and clear of the cogs on the servo. Okay. I'm just getting it in position to try and test fit it. There we go. It's just about sliding it underneath the plywood, and then it sits in place quite nicely, like so. Wow, it's quite solid as it is. I don't think I need to stick it down, but I will. So let's get it out again. So now we know the process. The sticky pad has almost removed itself already, so I could probably do that whilst in situ. There we go. Then make sure it's sitting centrally. There we go. So, as you can see, it's sitting, as I said, nice and centrally within the aircraft. It's pressed down nicely. It's in a really secure position. We've got our motor cable that's come. We've threaded it through one of the holes in the motor mount to keep it clear of the cogs. And just noticed, push it over a bit. There are some scores underneath here, as you'd have seen, and two of those are for the independent servos if you're installing those, and we'll go through that installation as well. But there are also a couple of little slots as well either side, and there's a piece of material that goes over those cogs to provide them with a little more protection too. So just make sure when you put the receiver in that you can see those slots either side. I can see both of them, but some of that little the foam pad, the sticky foam pad, is covering. So I'm just pushing it back so that it reveals that little slot there. So we've got our receiver in place. Now probably the best thing to do is to hook up the tail feathers again. So which one have we got here? This is our elevator. Observing that going through. There we go. That up. There we are. That. And onto the rudder. Thought I had it, then I let it go. So fantastic. So what we need to do now is make sure we get the rudder and elevator the right sides. So that's our elevator. That's our rudder. So rudder is right, elevator is L left. So that goes to that point there. So if I get our aileron wire out of the way for a second, so elevator is left, rudder is right. Rudder go pop over there. So if I hook up our rudder, I can see that it is pulling quite a lot. You can see there, almost maxing out to the left. So we need to extend the length of our push rod. So there we go. I've just slid out the wire to accommodate that. So I'm then going to hook that into the hole. There we go. So that's, hopefully you can see that I've now put the push rod there through the hole in the rudder servo arm. And to do exactly the same with the elevator. So the elevator 2 is pulling quite a lot. It's pulling that down. So once again, we need to extend the length of the elevator. Remember, this one is a little stiffer. So there we go. And then just pop that. You can see just bending it slightly with the pliers, with the tweezers. And then that just slides through the hole there. As you can see, I've got quite long tails on the on these push rods, but there's plenty of room for them. Obviously, what you don't want is for that to be too long and interfere with the components on the receiver when it moves back and forth. So certainly on the rudder, be a little more aware of the length of the tail that you have on the hook. So our tail feathers still aren't particularly neutral. Our rudder's now a little bit too long, so we can shorten that. All I'm doing is I'm grabbing the tube, the carbon fiber tube, and just pushing it towards the receiver and observing the tail at the same time. As you can see, so I'm trying to sit it in the most neutral place. There we go. That looks pretty neutral to me. It doesn't look neutral on camera, but it does look neutral to me by my eye. So, and they say the camera never lies, but I don't believe them. And on the elevator, we've got a bit of up elevator at the moment, so we just need to bring that in a little bit more. So yes, that looks good to me now. So now they're nice and neutral, what we can do is put a little CA glue on the carbon fibre rod at the junction where the metal piano wire goes into the rod. Now, be very careful when doing this. What we don't want to do is drop any glue on the receiver at all. So I'm going to position this upwards like so. So if we do get any drips, they're going to go and drip into the fuselage rather than onto the receiver. So just get my glue ready. So, and then a little blob there. Now, this other rod I've got here is not particularly indicative of how your rod will look. The rod will normally come up into this cavity here. I cut the wire down here, the control wire, a little bit too short. So I've now got to get down into the cabin there. I can still get down into the cabin there. I can still see it, but it's just a little more fiddly when it doesn't really need to be. So there we go. So that's our electronics installed into the aircraft. The last piece that we need to do is actually hook up our aileron, and as I said previously, the aileron goes into the first aileron port there. So I'm just going to feed that through to the front. My tweezers, it's going to be easier to do it. Go. And then making sure I've oriented the connector around the right way. So you'll notice there are various notches on the connector itself that should match up to the notches on the connector in there. So if you're still unsure, it should be yellow, red, brown facing you. So yellow on the left, red in the middle, brown on the right, left to right. So it's just a push fit. That should be fine. And then the rest of the cable can really go back into the cabin, tucked out of the way. There we go. So I've just tucked it in there. It's not interfering with the aileron controls themselves, and we don't have a mass of wires in the front here. So you can see how nice and neat and tidy that that setup is with the all-in-one receiver.